The great hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with soft conversations as delegates from 12 different worlds took their seats. The building itself was a wonder, made from crystal that grew like living trees and metal that sang when touched by starlight. For 3,000 years, this place had been the center of peace in the galaxy. Ambassador Zethkar walked slowly to the speaking platform. His 6 legs clicked against the smooth floor as his insect-like body moved with careful grace. The other delegates watched him with curious eyes. The Vexani people were known for being careful and thoughtful, not for making dramatic announcements. Zethkar's translator box crackled to life as he began to speak. "Honored friends of the Council," he said, his real voice making clicking sounds that the machine turned into words everyone could understand. "My people have found something on the dead world of Kepler 442b, something that changes what we know about the galaxy." The hall grew quiet. Kepler 442b was a world that had been dead for millions of years. Nothing lived there now except the scientists who dug through its ruins, looking for clues about the past. "We found more pieces of the human codex," Zethkar announced. A wave of soft sounds moved through the hall, some delegates laughing, others making worried noises. Everyone knew about humans, but most thought they were just stories. Tales told to children about a race of beings so violent they destroyed themselves before they could travel between stars. Oranel, the representative from the Luminari people, made a sound like wind chimes, laughing. Her body was made of pure light, shifting between colors as she spoke. "Dear Zethkar," she said, her voice like music, "surely you know these human stories are just myths. No real people could be as violent as the tales say." But Zethkar was not finished. He pressed a control, and a holographic image appeared above the platform. It showed broken stone tablets covered with strange writing. "These are not myths," he said firmly. "These are historical records, and they tell us things that should worry us all." Dr. Korthalin rose from his seat. The old reptilian scientist was respected throughout the galaxy for his work studying ancient civilizations. His scales were gray with age, and his eyes held the wisdom of someone who had spent lifetimes digging through the past. "I have studied these fragments for 2 years, Korthalin said, his voice deep and serious. "The technology described in them is beyond anything we have ever seen. Ships that could travel faster than our best quantum drives. Weapons that could break apart moons. Most frightening of all, they describe a people who loved war instead of fearing it." The delegates began to talk among themselves. The Thakuri representative, Admiral Vosek, stood up. He was tall and muscular, covered in thick armor that showed his rank as a warrior. His people were the strongest fighters in the galaxy, and he did not like the idea that someone might be stronger. "Even if these humans were real," Vosek said with a growl, "they are gone now, dead for millions of years. Why should we care about ancient history?" Korthalin touched another control and the image changed. Now it showed a map of stars, with lines drawn between them showing travel routes. The delegates fell silent as they realized what they were seeing. "This star chart shows human expansion routes," Korthalin explained. "They stretch far beyond any territory that Council species have ever reached. Look at these coordinates." The map zoomed in on certain areas. These were regions of space that appeared in the oldest Council databases, marked with simple warnings. "Quarantine zone, do not enter." No one remembered why these areas were forbidden. The warnings were so old that they had become tradition, rather than active policy. The human territories extended into every one of these quarantine zones, Korthalin continued, and according to these records, they were still expanding when their civilization ended. Councillor Maxar of the Ethereals floated forward. The Ethereals were beings of pure energy, ancient and wise. When they spoke, others listened. "Dr. Korthalin," Maxara said, her voice echoing strangely, "you speak of humans as if they were a great civilization, but all evidence says they destroyed themselves through violence. How could such a people build an empire?" Korthalin's expression grew troubled. "That is what worries me, Counselor. According to these records, the humans did not destroy themselves, they simply left. The word hung in the air like a threat. Left? Where could an entire civilization go? Sethkar stepped forward again. There is more, he said. We found records of something called the Great Preparation. The humans were building something. Massive shipyards. Weapons beyond our understanding. And then, all at once, they disappeared from this galaxy. Disappeared to where? Asked Captain Rixall of the aquatic depth dwellers. Her gills fluttered nervously as she spoke. The records are not clear, Sethkar admitted, but there are references to the dark between galaxies and the Long Watch. It sounds as if they were preparing to fight something terrible. Ambassador Quintar of the plant-like Verdani people rustled his leaves thoughtfully. Perhaps they were running from something they had created, a weapon too dangerous to control. Or perhaps, said a new voice, they were running toward something they needed to stop. Everyone turned to look at the speaker. It was Dr. Nilara, a young scientist from the Crystalline Collective. Her body was made of living crystal that reflected light in beautiful patterns. She was known for having strange ideas, but also for being right more often than not. What do you mean? Asked Oronel. Nilara stepped forward, her crystal body chiming softly as she moved. I have been studying the energy signatures we find in those quarantine zones. They are not natural. Something artificial passed through those areas long ago, something that left traces in space itself. She activated her own holographic display. It showed the quarantine zones again, but this time with energy patterns overlaid on them. The patterns formed a clear picture. Something massive had moved through that region of space, heading in a specific direction. The energy trails all point the same way, Nilara explained. Toward the edge of our galaxy, in the direction of the Andromeda cluster. And there is something else. The trails are old, but not as old as the human records. Whatever made them pass through here after the humans left. The hall erupted in nervous chatter. The implications were clear and frightening. The humans had not been running from something they created. They had been chasing something that threatened the entire galaxy. Counselor Mayaxara's energy form flickered with distress. Are you suggesting that the humans left our galaxy to fight some external threat? I am suggesting that we may not be alone in the universe, Nilara replied, and that the humans knew it. Admiral Vosek slammed his fist on his seat. This is all speculation. Ancient stories and mysterious energy readings. Even if humans were real, they are gone now. We have built our own civilization, our own defenses. We do not need mythical warriors to protect us. But even as he spoke, alerts began to sound throughout the hall. The soft chiming of the building's systems was joined by the urgent tones of emergency broadcasts. Delegates looked at their personal communicators with growing alarm. The great doors of the hall opened, and a junior aide rushed in. She was Luminar, her light body flickering with excitement and fear. She ran directly to Counselor Mayaxara and whispered urgently in her ear. Mayaxara's energy form suddenly blazed brighter. She turned to address the assembly, her voice carrying new urgency. Delegates, I have just received word from our long-range sensor network. Ships have been detected at the edge of our solar system. Unknown ships, using technology we do not recognize. The hall fell completely silent. In 3,000 years of peace, no unknown ships had ever approached Council space. How many ships? Asked Admiral Vosek, his warrior instincts taking over. 3, Mayaxara replied, but they are larger than anything in our databases. Sethkar's mandibles clicked nervously. What kind of technology are they using? Quantum drives? Fold space engines? The aide whispered something else to Mayaxara. The ethereal's energy form flickered with what looked like confusion. They did not arrive, Mayaxara said slowly. They simply appeared. Our sensors show no energy signatures consistent with any known form of faster-than-light travel. One moment the space was empty, and the next moment they were there. Dr. Nilara's crystal body began to pulse with excitement. Show us the sensor readings, she demanded. A new holographic display appeared, showing the outer edges of their solar system. 3 massive shapes hung in space near the orbit of the system's farthest planet. Even at this distance, it was clear that they were artificial, and they were huge. These ships are each over 3 kilometers long, the aide reported. Their mass readings are off our scales, and they are broadcasting something. What kind of transmission? Asked Captain Rixall. They are speaking Council standard, Maxara replied, her voice filled with disbelief. Perfect Council standard, and they are asking if we need assistance. The delegates stared at the display in stunned silence. Unknown ships appearing from nowhere, speaking their language and offering help instead of making demands. Admiral Vosek stood up, his hand moving to his weapon. This could be a trick. We should mobilize the fleet. Wait, said Dr. Corthalin. The old scientist was staring at the ships with an expression of wonder and fear. Look at their design, the angular construction, the way they seem to absorb light instead of reflecting it. I have seen these shapes before. Where? Demanded Zethkar. Corthalin turned to face the assembly. In the human records, those ships, they match the descriptions in the codex exactly. The implications hit the room like a physical blow. The humans were not extinct. They were not myths. They were real, and they were here. Orinel's light flickered uncertainly. But that is impossible. The human records are millions of years old. Are they? Asked Nelara quietly. We assumed they were ancient because we found them in old ruins. But what if the ruins were built around something much newer? What if those records were left as messages? The thought was too big, too frightening to fully grasp. An entire civilization hiding between the galaxies for millions of years, watching and waiting, preparing for something that the Council could not even imagine. Admiral Vosek's communicator buzzed urgently. He answered it with a sharp gesture, his face growing pale as he listened. When he finished, he looked up at the assembly with something like fear in his eyes. The defense fleet is moving to intercept, he reported. 7 battle cruisers, our finest ships. But... He paused, swallowing hard. Our scanning officers report that the unknown vessels are not even powered for combat. They appear to be in what we would call a maintenance configuration, and yet they wait, observed Maxara. They make no aggressive moves, but they also do not retreat. Dr. Corthalin was studying the ship designs more carefully. If these are truly human vessels, he said slowly, then we are looking at technology that is millions of years more advanced than ours. Ships that can appear anywhere in space without warning. If they meant us harm, he did not need to finish the thought. If the humans wanted to destroy the Council, they could probably do it, without the Council even knowing they were under attack. The question that hung in the air, unspoken but understood by all, was simple and terrifying. After millions of years of silence, why had the humans finally returned? And what did their arrival mean for everyone else in the galaxy? Outside, in the cold vacuum of space, 3 massive ships waited patiently for an answer to their offer of assistance. Ships that had traveled impossible distances using technology beyond imagination. Ships crewed by the descendants of a people thought to be nothing more than myths and legends. The humans had returned, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. 3 weeks had passed since the emergency council session, and Admiral Vosek stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Thundering Spear. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, their scaled hands moving over controls that governed the most powerful warship the Thakuri had ever built. The defense fleet hung in formation near the edge of the system, 7 massive battle cruisers that represented the finest military technology the Council possessed. Each ship was over 1 kilometer long, armed with plasma cannons that could melt asteroids and shields that could withstand the heat of a small star. Vosek felt confident. His people were warriors, bred for battle across 1,000 generations. They had never lost a war, never retreated from a fight. Whatever these mysterious ships were, they would learn to respect Thakuri strength. Admiral, called his tactical officer, Lieutenant Keksar, the unknown vessels are still maintaining position, no change in their energy signatures. Still in maintenance mode, Vosek asked. Yes, sir. It is almost as if they are not taking us seriously. Vosek's jaw tightened. That would change soon. Enough. He had given the aliens 3 weeks to explain themselves, 3 weeks to either leave or submit to council authority. They had done neither. All ships advance to attack formation, he commanded. Weapons charged but not locked. Let us see how they respond to a show of force. The 7 ships moved forward in perfect unity, their hulls gleaming in the light of the system's star. They were a sight to inspire fear in any enemy, a wall of armored death moving with deadly purpose. But the alien ships did not react. They simply floated in space like sleeping giants, their dark hulls seeming to drink in the starlight around them. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from the lead alien vessel." "Put it through," Vosek ordered. The main screen flickered, and suddenly the bridge was filled with an image that made everyone freeze. A human face looked back at them, exactly like the descriptions in the ancient records. 2 eyes, hair on the head, skin instead of scales or light. But this was no ancient carving or faded painting. This was a living being, looking at them with calm, intelligent eyes. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Indomitable," the human said in perfect council standard. Her voice was steady and professional. "We detected quantum distress signals from this sector and came to investigate. Please state the nature of your emergency." Vosek stared at the screen in shock. "Emergency? What emergency?" The only emergency was the appearance of these massive ships at the edge of their space. He found his voice after a moment. "I am Admiral Vosek of the Thakuri Defense Force. You are in council space without permission. Identify yourselves and state your intentions, or we will consider you hostile." Captain Chen's expression did not change, but something flickered in her eyes that might have been amusement. "Admiral, we have been monitoring this region for some time. Our sensors detected energy patterns consistent with archaeological survey equipment operating at dangerous levels. We assumed someone was in distress." "Dangerous levels?" Lieutenant Keksar whispered. "Our survey equipment operates within normal parameters." Captain Chen seemed to hear him despite the distance. "Your equipment is producing quantum resonance at levels that could destabilize local spacetime if not properly contained. We thought you might need assistance with emergency evacuation procedures." Vosek felt a chill run down his spine. Their most sensitive instruments could barely detect the energy signatures from their archaeological work, even at close range. How had these humans detected them from outside the system? "Admiral," Chen continued, "I should inform you that what you see here is just our diplomatic escort. We always send a small advance team when responding to potential emergencies. Our main fleet is currently conducting training exercises about 400 light-years from here." The words hit Vosek like a physical blow. Small advance team? He was looking at 3 ships, each one larger than his entire battle group combined. If this was just an escort, what did their main fleet look like? "Tactical," he said quietly. "Full sensor sweep of those vessels. I want to know everything about them." Lieutenant Keksar's claws clicked rapidly over his console. After a few moments, he looked up with an expression of disbelief. "Sir, the energy readings are impossible. Each of those ships is generating more power than our entire fleet combined. Their hulls are made of materials not in our databases, and sir—" "What?" "I am detecting weapon ports along their hulls, thousands of them. Each one appears to be larger than our main guns." Vosek's confidence began to crumble. He was a warrior, but he was not stupid. The tactical situation was becoming clear, and it was not in his favor. "Captain Chen," he said, trying to keep his voice steady, "you say you are here to help, but your ships are clearly military vessels. What kind of help requires such firepower?" For the first time, Captain Chen's expression grew serious. "Admiral, the universe is a dangerous place. My people learned long ago that sometimes the best way to keep peace is to be prepared for war. We hope we will never need to use our weapons, but we carry them in case we meet something that leaves us no choice." "Something like what?" Chen was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. "There are threats in the dark between galaxies, Admiral. Things that most civilizations never encounter because they never travel far enough from home. But Sometimes those threats come looking for new territory to claim. Before Vosek could ask what she meant, his communications officer interrupted. Sir, we are receiving messages from across the sector. Human ships have appeared in 17 different systems. 17 systems? Vosek's mind reeled. How many ships did these humans have? All claiming to be routine patrols, the officer continued. They say they detected concerning energy patterns and came to investigate. Captain Chen nodded as if this was perfectly normal. Standard protocol when entering a new region. We like to get a complete picture of local conditions before making contact with planetary governments. How many ships? Vosek asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. In your local sector? About 50 vessels on patrol duty. Nothing too serious. We keep our main forces in reserve unless there is a real threat. 50 ships. Each one the size of a space station with firepower beyond imagination. And this was just a routine patrol. Admiral, came another voice from his communications console. Priority message from Nexus Prime. The Council is requesting immediate contact with the human commander. Vosek looked at the screen where Captain Chen waited patiently. This was no longer a military situation he could handle with force. This was first contact with a civilization so advanced that his entire fleet might as well be armed shuttles. Captain Chen, he said slowly, the Galactic Council would like to speak with you. Of course, Chen replied. We would be honored to meet with your leaders. Should we proceed to your capital system? The thought of 3 ships this size appearing above Nexus Prime made Vosek's stomach turn. Perhaps 1 ship would be sufficient for a diplomatic meeting. Chen smiled, and for a moment she looked almost human in the old stories, friendly and approachable. Certainly, the Indomitable will accompany you. The other ships will remain here and continue monitoring local space for any signs of danger. What kind of danger? Vosek had to ask. Chen's smile faded. The kind that travels in the dark between stars, Admiral. The kind that views civilizations like yours as resources to be consumed. We have been tracking several concerning energy signatures moving in this direction. We hope they are false alarms, but... She did not finish the sentence, but Vosek understood. The humans were not here as conquerors. They were here as protectors, watching for threats that the Council could not even imagine. Admiral, Lieutenant Kexar said quietly. The alien ship, the Indomitable. It is moving. On the screen, one of the massive human vessels began to turn. There was no visible propulsion, no energy flare from engines. It simply rotated in space, as if the laws of physics were merely suggestions. How are they moving without engines? Kexar whispered. Captain Chen heard him again. We use gravitational field manipulation for sublight movement, much more efficient than reaction drives, and it does not stress the ship's structure. Would you like me to transmit some basic technical specifications? Your engineers might find them interesting. Basic technical specifications. As if the secrets of gravity control were something humans shared casually with new acquaintances. That would be appreciated, Vosek managed to say. Excellent. I will have our science officer prepare a basic introduction to applied gravitational dynamics. Nothing too complex, just the fundamental principles. We find that most civilizations can understand the basics once they have a strong foundation in unified field theory. Vosek realized that what humans considered basic was probably centuries beyond anything the Council had achieved. These were not just advanced aliens. These were beings who had transcended the normal limitations of technology and physics. Captain, he said, may I ask how long your people have been traveling between stars? Chen thought for a moment. Our first interstellar ships were launched about 800 years ago. We have been exploring outside our home galaxy for roughly 400 years. Most of that time has been spent cataloging threats and building early warning systems. 800 years of interstellar travel. The Council's oldest spacefaring civilization had been among the stars for less than 500 years. And humans had been exploring other galaxies, while the Council was still learning to build faster-than-light drives. Sir, came a nervous voice from the sensor station. I am reading massive gravitational distortions around the human ship. It appears to be bending space itself. Captain Chen nodded. We will be traveling to your capital system using our standard diplomatic approach. Slow and visible, so your sensors can track us easily. We do not want to alarm anyone by appearing suddenly. Slow and visible. Vosek wondered what their normal travel speed looked like if this was the careful approach. Estimated. Travel time to Nexus Prime? He asked. At diplomatic speed? About 4 hours. 4 hours to cross 12 light years. The fastest Council ships needed 3 days for the same journey. As the human ship began to move, reality seemed to bend around it. Space twisted like water, and stars appeared to shift position as gravitational fields, stronger than those around black holes, wrapped around the vessel. Admiral, Chen said, I should mention that during our journey you might want to secure any loose objects on your ships. Our gravitational wake can be a bit rough for vessels not equipped with inertial dampeners. Inertial dampeners? Technology that prevents acceleration from affecting the crew inside a ship. Surely you have something similar. Vosek looked around his bridge where crew members were already strapping themselves into their seats as the ship began to shake from the gravitational effects of the human vessel. No, he said quietly. We do not. Captain Chen's expression shifted to one of concern. Oh, I am sorry, I did not realize. Let me adjust our field generation to minimize the effect on your ships. The shaking stopped immediately. Somehow the humans had modified their gravitational manipulation to accommodate the primitive technology of the Council fleet. Better? Chen asked. Yes, thank you. Good. We should arrive at your capital in a few hours. In the meantime, perhaps you could tell me about your civilization? We always like to learn about the cultures we encounter. As the impossible journey began, Vosek found himself answering questions from a being whose people had been myths and legends just weeks ago, a being who could cross the galaxy in days, who carried weapons that could destroy planets, and who had casually offered to share technology that would revolutionize Council civilization. And through it all, one thought kept echoing in his mind. If these humans were so powerful, what were they afraid of? What could possibly threaten beings who could manipulate gravity and travel between galaxies? He was very much afraid that he was about to find out. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going on for 6 hours, and the tension in the Great Hall was thick enough to cut with a blade. Reports continued to flow in from across Council space, human ships appearing in system after system, their crews politely asking if anyone needed assistance. Councillor Maxara floated at the center of the chamber, her energy form flickering with stress. Around her, the representatives of 12 civilizations argued in voices that grew louder and more frightened with each passing hour. 53 confirmed ships, reported Captain Rixall, her gills fluttering rapidly as she spoke. All of them, massive, all of them armed with weapons we cannot identify, and all of them claiming to be on routine patrol. Routine patrol of our space, growled Admiral Vosek. Without permission, without warning. But Ambassador Zethkar clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. They say they have been monitoring our region for 400 years. Perhaps from their perspective, this is their space. The argument that followed was interrupted by a soft chime. The great doors of the chamber opened, and a figure walked in that made every delegate fall silent. Captain Sarah Chen entered the hall with the calm confidence of someone who had faced much worse than a room full of nervous politicians. She wore a simple blue uniform with silver insignia, and she moved with the fluid grace of someone comfortable with artificial gravity. Behind her walked 2 other humans, a man with dark skin and lieutenant stripes and a woman with short gray hair, and the bearing of a senior officer. Honored Council, Chen said, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Systems Navy. This is Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, my tactical officer, and Commander Elena Vasquez of the UES Retribution. Councillor Maxara's energy form pulsed with what might have been nervousness. Captain Chen, we welcome you to our capital, though we must admit your arrival has raised many questions. I understand completely, Chen replied. First contact is always complicated. Perhaps I can help by explaining why we are here. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared above her head. It showed a map of local space with energy signatures, marked in red. For the past several months, our long-range sensors have detected unusual quantum fluctuations in this region. The patterns were consistent with archaeological survey equipment operating at dangerous power levels. We were concerned that someone might be in need of assistance. Dr. Korthalin leaned forward in his seat. Dangerous? Our equipment operates within normal safety parameters. Commander Vasquez stepped forward. Dr. Korthalin, I presume? We have read your papers on ancient civilizations. Quite fascinating work. She paused, then continued gently. However, your quantum resonance equipment is operating at levels that could cause spatial distortions if not properly contained. We detected the signals from outside your galaxy. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Outside their galaxy? That was impossible. Their most sensitive equipment could barely detect those signals from orbit around the same planet. Commander, said Counselor Maexera carefully, you say you detected our signals from outside the galaxy. How is such sensitivity possible? Standard procedure, Vasquez replied matter-of-factly. We maintain sensor networks throughout the local galactic cluster. When we detect signs of emerging civilizations, we monitor from a distance to ensure they are not threatened by external forces. External forces? Asked Ambassador Quintar, his leaves rustling with anxiety. Captain Chen's expression grew serious. The universe is larger and more dangerous than most civilizations realize, Ambassador. There are threats that travel between galaxies, seeking new resources and territory. We have been tracking several such entities that appear to be moving in this direction. She gestured again, and the display changed. Now it showed a section of space far beyond the Council's borders, where something vast and dark was moving through the void. This is what our deep space monitors detected 18 months ago, Chen explained. We call them devourers. They consume entire star systems, converting matter into more of themselves. They have already destroyed 17 galaxies that we know of. The silence in the chamber was complete. Even the soft humming of the building system seemed to have stopped. High Counselor Maexera spoke first, her voice barely above a whisper. 17 galaxies? That we know of, Commander Vasquez confirmed. There may be more. The Devourers do not leave survivors to tell their story. Admiral Vosek stood up, his warrior pride overcoming his shock. Even if such a threat exists, surely the combined fleets of the Council could defend our worlds. We have thousands of ships, millions of trained fighters. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez could not quite suppress a sound that might have been a laugh. Captain Chen shot him a sharp look and he straightened to attention. Admiral, Chen said carefully, we appreciate your courage. But the Devourer Advance Force alone masses approximately 800 billion tons. Our scouts report that the main swarm is roughly the size of your largest moon, and it learns from every encounter, adapting to overcome whatever resistance it faces. The numbers were so large they seemed meaningless. Vosek tried to imagine a threat the size of a moon, made up of billions of individual attackers, all working with hive mind intelligence. Surely you exaggerate, said Oranel, her light form flickering uncertainly. I wish we did, Chen replied. Commander Vasquez, please show them the Kepler 438 incident. The hologram changed again, showing what had once been a star system. Now, there was only empty space where planets and asteroids should have been. Even the star itself was dimmed, as if something had been feeding on it. This system was consumed 6 months ago, Vasquez explained. Population: 4 billion sentient beings across 7 worlds. Defensive fleet: approximately 2,000 ships. Time from first contact to complete consumption: 14 hours. 14 hours. An entire civilization, gone in less than a day. Doctor. Nilara's crystal body began to pulse with rapid light patterns, a sign of extreme agitation in her species. How can we fight something like that? With preparation, technology, and cooperation, Chen answered. Which brings us to why we are really here. She gestured once more, and the display showed human ship positions throughout the galaxy. There were hundreds of them, positioned at strategic points along the edges of Council space. "We have been building defenses around your region for the past 2 years," Chen explained. "Early warning systems, automated weapon platforms, shield generators, but static defenses alone will not be enough. We need your help." "Our help?" Ambassador Zethkar clicked his mandibles in confusion. "What could we possibly do that you cannot? Your technology is clearly superior to ours." Captain Chen smiled, and for a moment she looked almost human in the old stories, warm and approachable. "You would be surprised, Ambassador. The Devourers adapt to overcome resistance, but they have never faced coordinated resistance from multiple species working together. Your diversity is a weapon they cannot adapt to quickly enough." The secure briefing chamber beneath Nexus Prime had never seen anything like this. Built deep underground and shielded against every known form of surveillance, it was where the Council's most sensitive military planning took place. Today, it hosted a meeting that would reshape everything the galaxy knew about war. Admiral Marcus Webb sat at the head of the table, his gray hair and lined face showing the weight of centuries spent preparing for this moment. Around him sat the senior commanders of the 2nd Human Expeditionary Force, their blue uniforms stark against the organic curves of the chamber's walls. Across from them, the Council's leaders leaned forward with expressions of fascination and growing dread. The holographic displays floating above the table showed images that challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe. "The Devourer threat is not new," Admiral Webb began, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent lifetimes studying an enemy. "They have been consuming galaxies for millions of years, following predictable patterns of expansion and consumption." Dr. Nilara's crystal body pulsed with rapid light patterns. "Millions of years? How is that possible? No civilization could survive that long." General Patricia Foster, her scarred hands folded on the table, answered quietly. "They are not a civilization, Dr. Nilara. They are a force of nature, like entropy itself, but with purpose and direction." She gestured, and the display changed to show a 3-dimensional map of local galactic space. Red markers indicated Devourer activity over the past million years, forming a pattern that made the Council delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. "They follow galactic spiral arms," Foster explained, moving from galaxy to galaxy, consuming everything in their path, then moving on when there is nothing left to feed on. They are completely predictable, which is both our advantage and our curse. "Curse?" asked Ambassador Zethkar. Admiral Webb answered grimly. "Because we have known they were coming for 400 years. Every human born in the last 4 centuries has grown up knowing that someday they would have to fight for the survival of all intelligent life." The weight of that statement settled over the chamber like a physical thing. 400 years of preparation. 16 generations of humans, all raised with the knowledge that extinction was approaching. Commander Vasquez activated another display, showing the current positions of human forces. The delegates stared in growing amazement as hundreds of ship markers appeared scattered throughout the galaxy. "This is our current deployment," Vasquez explained. "The 2nd Expeditionary Force consists of approximately 1,200 ships of various classes, supported by 47 mobile shipyards and 300 automated defense platforms." 1,200 ships? Admiral Vosek's voice cracked. "Slightly. That is more than our entire Council fleet." "This is one of 7 expeditionary forces," Webb said matter-of-factly. "The others are positioned around different threatened regions throughout the local galactic cluster." Captain Chen, who had been quiet until now, leaned forward. "Admiral Vosek, you must understand. We are not here as conquerors. We are here because this is what we do. For 400 years, every human world has been a fortress. Every asteroid has been converted into weapons platforms. We have weaponized our sun. We have built ships inside planets. Our entire civilization exists for one purpose: to stop the Devourers." The casual way she mentioned weaponizing their sun made Counselor Maxara's energy form flicker with shock. Your entire star is a weapon?" Dr. James Harrison, humanity's leading xenobiologist, smiled sadly. "Captain Chen is understating things, Counselor. Our sun is just one weapon among many. When you face an enemy that can consume entire solar systems, you learn to think very large. He activated his own display, showing a cutaway view of the human solar system. What the council saw made them question everything they thought they knew about technology and engineering. The sun itself was surrounded by a network of structures that seemed to drink in its energy and focus it into massive beam weapons. Planets had been hollowed out and converted into shipyards. Asteroid belts had been transformed into clouds of automated defense drones. Even the comets in the outer system carried weapon platforms. Every human world is like this, Harrison explained. Not because we are warlike, but because we have had 4 centuries to prepare for a single battle. The battle for the survival of everything we hold dear. Ambassador Quintar's leaves rustled with distress. How can you live like this? How can you raise children in a civilization built entirely for war? General Foster's expression softened slightly. The same way your people raised children during the War of the Seven Suns, Ambassador. By teaching them that some things are worth fighting for, and that preparation today means survival tomorrow. But 400 years, whispered Oronel, is not very long when you are preparing to fight gods. Webb said simply. He gestured, and the display changed to show tactical analyses of devourer capabilities. The numbers that appeared made the council delegates wish they had never asked. Individual devourer units range in size from approximately 10 meters to over 100 kilometers in length, Webb explained with professional detachment. They are capable of self-replication using any available matter. They can operate in vacuum, underwater, underground, or in the cores of stars. They do not tire, they do not retreat, and they learn from every encounter. How many of them are there? Asked Captain Rixall, though her gills indicated she dreaded the answer. Commander Vasquez consulted her notes. Current estimates place the approaching swarm at approximately 10 or 43 individual units. For comparison, that is roughly equivalent to the number of molecules in a small asteroid. The council delegates stared at the number, unable to fully process its meaning. A trillion individual enemies, each one capable of destroying cities. That is impossible, Admiral Vosek said flatly. Nothing could control that many units. They do not need control, Harrison explained. They are a hive, mind, with distributed intelligence across the entire swarm. Each unit shares information instantly with all others. When one learns something, they all learn it. Dr. Corthellen leaned forward, his scientific mind working despite his fear. How do you fight such a thing? How do you kill something that can learn from your attacks? Very carefully, and with overwhelming force, General Foster replied. The key is to destroy their ability to adapt faster than they can adapt to your attacks. You hit them with everything you have, from every direction, using tactics they have never encountered before. Which is where you come in, Captain Chen added, looking at the council delegates. The Devourers have been fighting humans for 400 years. They know our tactics, our technology, our patterns of thinking. But they have never encountered a coordinated defense by multiple species working together. Webb nodded. Your diversity is a weapon, counselors. The Vexani hive mind thinks differently than human tactical computers. Ethereal energy manipulation follows different patterns than our gravitational systems. The Kuri warrior instincts operate on principles the Devourers have never encountered. You are saying our weaknesses are strengths? Asked Zethkar. I am saying your differences are advantages, Webb corrected. The Devourers adapt by analyzing and countering patterns of resistance. If we can present them with too many different patterns to analyze quickly, we can overwhelm their adaptation protocols. Commander Vasquez brought up a new display showing the planned defense of the galaxy. It was a maze of overlapping fields of fire, mobile defense platforms, and ships positioned in patterns that seemed almost organic. This is our proposed defensive strategy, she explained. Human ships will form the backbone of the defense, providing heavy firepower and coordination. But each sector will be defended by mixed species teams using different tactical approaches. Vexani ships will operate in swarm formations that mirror their social structure, she continued. Ethereal vessels will use energy manipulation tactics that our enemies cannot predict. Thakuri warriors will lead boarding actions against Devourer command nodes. Admiral Vosek straightened with pride. Boarding actions, you want us to fight them hand to hand? General Foster smiled for the first time since the meeting began. Admiral, Devourers are machines. Incredibly advanced machines, but machines nonetheless. And sometimes the best way to stop a machine is to get inside it and break something important. Besides, added Harrison, human Marines have been training for Devourer boarding actions for 2 centuries. We would be honored to fight alongside Thakuri warriors. Your people's reputation for courage is known throughout human space. The compliment was clearly genuine, and Vosek's chest swelled with pride. To be respected by beings who could destroy moons with their point defense systems was praise indeed. Dr. Nilara's crystal body began to pulse with a different pattern, curiosity rather than fear. Dr. Harrison, you mentioned that humans have been training for this battle for centuries. What kind of training? Harrison's expression grew somber. Every human learns to fight, Dr. Nilara. Not because we love war, but because we love peace. Enough to die for it. Every human city has shelters that can withstand planet-killing weapons. Every human ship is built to keep fighting even when most of its systems are destroyed. Every human knows that if the Devourers are not stopped here, they will never be stopped. But we also train for something else, Captain Chen added quietly. We train to work with allies. Human history is full of wars where different groups learn to fight together against common threats. We know how to coordinate with other species, how to adapt our tactics to support your strengths instead of competing with them. Counselor, Mayexar's energy form brightened with what might have been hope. You truly believe we can win? Admiral Webb stood up, his presence commanding attention from every person in the room. Counselor, 18 months from now when the Devourer swarm arrives at the edge of this galaxy, they will find something they have never encountered before. Not just human defenses, but the combined strength of 13 species working as one. They will find weapons that think like Vexani, energy fields that flow like ethereals, warriors who fight like Thakuri, and coordination systems that adapt like humans. They will find a defense that no single species could have built, using tactics that no single mind could have conceived. He looked around the table, meeting the eyes of each delegate. Will it be easy? No. Will we lose ships and people? Yes. But will we win? He smiled grimly. Counselor, the Devourers have been consuming galaxies for millions of years. They have never faced humanity. They have certainly never faced humanity with allies. Besides, General Foster added with a dark chuckle, we have been preparing for this fight for 400 years. We have contingency plans for our contingency plans. We have backup strategies for scenarios that probably will never happen, and we have weapons that we have been saving specifically for this moment. What kind of weapons? Asked Ambassador Quintar. Captain Chen and Admiral Webb exchanged glances. Finally, Chen spoke. The kind that we hope we will never have to use, Ambassador. The kind that make destroying moons look like a gentle suggestion. The implications hung in the air like a promise and a threat. The humans had shown them casual destruction of celestial bodies with point defense weapons. What did their actual superweapons look like? For now, Webb continued, let us focus on preparation. We have 18 months to transform this galaxy into the most heavily defended region of space in the universe. It will require every ship, every world, every person working together toward a single goal. He gestured, and the display changed to show a timeline of preparations. The scope was staggering. Entire planetary industries to be converted, new ships to be built, defensive positions to be constructed throughout the galaxy. Dr. Korthalin, we will need your archaeological expertise to identify any areas where Devourers might have left scouts or observation posts. Ambassador Zethkar, the Vexani industrial capacity will be crucial for building automated defense platforms. Admiral Vosek, we need Thakuri warriors to train our boarding teams. As the assignments continued, each delegate began to understand their role in the vast machine of preparation. They were no longer just representatives of their individual species. They were partners in the greatest military undertaking in galactic history. One more thing, Admiral Webb said as the meeting began to wind down. From this moment forward, everything we discuss is classified at the highest levels. The Devourers have scouts throughout this region. If they learn too much about our preparations, they will adapt their tactics before they arrive. How will we explain the massive military buildup to our populations? Asked Maxara. Captain Chen smiled sadly. Tell them the truth, Counselor. Tell them that help has arrived, and that together we are going to save the galaxy. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, each returning to their ships to begin the greatest mobilization in galactic history, one thought echoed in every mind. 400 years ago, humanity had looked into the darkness between galaxies and seen their own extinction approaching. Instead of despair, they had chosen preparation. Instead of fear, they had chosen hope. And now, that hope extended to every world, every species, every living thing in the galaxy. The humans had turned themselves into legends through centuries of sacrifice and preparation. Now they offered to share that legend with everyone who was willing to fight for it. The War Council was over. The real work was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the Great Alliance was forged, and the galaxy had been transformed beyond recognition. Where once there had been peaceful trade routes, now massive weapon platforms floated in the void. Where mining asteroids had drifted lazily around stars, now automated defense grids hummed with deadly energy. Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, humanity's newest and most powerful warship. Around her, the combined defense forces of 13 species worked together with an efficiency that would have seemed impossible just months before. The Defiance itself was a testament to what could be accomplished when different civilizations pooled their knowledge. Its hull was grown from Zephyrian biometal that could repair itself in battle. Its weapons were powered by ethereal energy cores that converted pure thought into devastating force. Its navigation systems used Vexani, hive mind processing, to calculate tactical solutions faster than any individual computer could manage. Admiral, called Lieutenant Rodriguez from his tactical station, we are receiving confirmation from Sector 7. The crystalline array is online and functioning within normal parameters. Chen nodded with satisfaction. The crystalline array was one of their most ambitious projects, a network of Shardai vessels that could harmonize their natural resonance frequencies to create weapons that existed in 11 dimensions. The mathematics alone had taken 3 months to work out. Any word from the Thakuri boarding teams? She asked. Commander Vasquez looked up from her coordination console. Admiral Vosek reports that the joint training exercises are exceeding expectations. His warriors have adapted to human tactical doctrine faster than we hoped. They are particularly excited about the new assault shuttles. Chen smiled at that. The Thakuri had taken one look at humanity's heavily armored boarding craft and declared them barely adequate for real warriors. The compromise design they had developed together was something that looked like it could punch through a planet's crust and still have room for a full company of fighters. Admiral, came a new voice from the communication station. We are receiving a priority transmission from Deep Space Monitor Station Alpha 7. Chen's expression grew serious. The Deep Space Monitors were humanity's early warning system, positioned at the very edge of the galaxy where they could detect approaching threats. A priority transmission from one of them could only mean one thing. Put it through, Lieutenant. The main screen flickered, and the image of Captain Maria Santos appeared. Her face was grim but determined, and behind her, Chen could see the cramped bridge of a deep space monitoring vessel. Admiral, Santos said without preamble, we have contact. The Devourer advance scouts have reached the galactic perimeter. 3 vessels, approximately 10 kilometers in length each, moving on a direct course for the core systems. The bridge fell silent. After 18 months of preparation, the moment they had all been dreading and anticipating had finally arrived. Estimated. Time to council space? Chen asked. 72 hours at current speed, Santos replied. But Admiral, there is something else. These scouts are different from what we expected. They are not following standard Devourer approach patterns. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. Different how? They are moving in formation, Admiral. Coordinated. And they are scanning everything they pass, not just looking for resources to consume. It is almost as if they are studying our defenses. Commander Vasquez looked up from her console with concern. That suggests a level of tactical thinking we have not seen from Devourer scouts before. Or, said Dr. Harrison, who had joined them, on the bridge for the final preparations, it suggests that the main swarm has learned from previous encounters and is adapting its approach. Chen absorbed this information quickly. Adaptive enemies were the worst kind. They learned from your tactics and developed counters faster than you could develop new strategies. Captain Santos, she said, maintain observation, but do not engage. We need to learn as much as possible about their capabilities before we commit to battle. Understood, Admiral. Monitor Station Alpha 7 out. As the transmission ended, Chen turned to address her bridge crew. All stations. Begin implementation. Defense Plan Omega. Contact all fleet commanders and council representatives. Tell them the wait is over. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of final preparations. Ships moved to their assigned positions throughout the galaxy. Civilians were evacuated from border systems. Weapon platforms charged their primary systems and ran final diagnostic checks. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Chen watched the tactical displays with growing tension. The Devourer scouts had passed 3 of humanity's outer monitoring stations, ignoring the automated challenges and defensive positions as if they did not exist. They are definitely studying our defenses, Commander Vasquez reported. Each scout is scanning different aspects of our installations. One is focused on energy signatures, one on material composition, and the third on communication frequencies. They are preparing the main swarm, Chen realized, giving it information about what to expect when it arrives. Ambassador Zethkar's voice came through the communication system from his flagship. Admiral Chen, should we not attack them before they can report back to the main force? Negative, Ambassador, Chen replied. These scouts are designed to be expendable. They expect to be destroyed. If we attack them now, we learn nothing about their capabilities, and they learn everything about ours. Then what do we do? Asked he. Admiral Vosek from his position commanding the Thakuri battle groups. Chen studied the tactical display for a long moment. 3 enemy scouts, moving with purpose toward the heart of Council space. Behind them, somewhere in the dark between galaxies, a force beyond imagination was following their path. We let them come to us, she said finally. All ships fall back to position Alpha Prime. Let the scouts think they have found easy prey. Position Alpha Prime was a star system on the edge of Council space that had been carefully chosen as a killing ground. It appeared to be lightly defended with only a few platforms and patrol ships visible to enemy sensors. In reality, it was the most heavily fortified position in the galaxy. The Devourer scouts arrived exactly on schedule, dropping out of their faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system with the casual confidence of predators who had never encountered serious resistance. Admiral, reported Lieutenant Rodriguez, enemy vessels are conducting detailed scans of the system. They appear to be cataloging our defensive positions. Let them look, Chen said calmly. Dr. Harrison, are your biological warfare systems ready? Harrison nodded grimly. The Zephyrian virus bombs are loaded and standing by. If these scouts are transmitting information back to the main swarm, we will give them some very unpleasant surprises to share. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Let the scouts gather intelligence about the weak defenses in the system. Let them prepare to transmit that information back to the main force. Then, at the moment of transmission, unleash everything. Enemy vessels are moving toward the inner system, reported the sensor operator. They appear to be targeting the inhabited worlds for closer examination. All ships maintain position, Chen ordered. Let them get close enough to see our children. On the observation deck of the Defiance, a group of young beings from different species watched the approaching enemy with curiosity rather than fear. Human children played alongside Vexani larvae, ethereal energy wisps, and young Thakuri warriors. They had been born into a galaxy at war, but they had also been born into an alliance unlike anything the universe had ever seen. Admiral, called Vasquez, The scouts are beginning their transmission sequence. They are sending compressed data packets toward the galactic edge. Dr. Harrison, virus bombs are ready. The moment they complete their transmission, every piece of information they send will be contaminated with our special gifts. Chen watched the tactical display as the three Devourer scouts moved deeper into the system, confident in their superiority. They had no idea that hundreds of ships were hidden throughout the asteroid belts, that the apparently harmless gas giant was actually a massive weapons platform, or that the star itself had been modified to serve as a gravitational weapon. Transmission complete, reported Rodriguez. The scouts are turning to leave the system. All ships, Chen said quietly. Execute Plan Omega. Show them what legends look like. The star exploded. Not literally. The fusion reaction continued. Normally. But the carefully placed gravitational manipulators that humanity had been building for 6 months suddenly activated, focusing the star's energy output into a beam of coherent force that lanced across the system in milliseconds. The first Devourer scout simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next it was a cloud of component atoms scattered across several light minutes of space. The second scout had a brief moment to register the attack before the hidden fleet opened fire. Hundreds of ships dropped their stealth fields and unleashed weapons that represented the combined technological knowledge of 13 civilizations. Energy beams that thought like living creatures, projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions, and gravitational distortions that could fold space itself into knots. The third scout lasted long enough to attempt an escape, but the crystalline array activated with a sound like the universe singing. The harmonic resonance weapons of the Shardai tore through its defenses as if they were made of paper, reducing the massive vessel to its component molecules in seconds. All enemy contacts destroyed, Rodriguez reported with satisfaction. Total engagement time 4.7 seconds, but Chen was not celebrating. Dr. Harrison, status on the virus transmission? Harrison consulted his biological warfare displays with growing excitement. Transmission successful, Admiral. The contaminated data packets are already spreading through the Devourer communication network. By the time the main swarm receives the intelligence about our weak defenses, they will also receive several trillion engineered viruses designed to disrupt their biological systems. Will it stop them? Asked Ambassador Zethkar. No, Harrison admitted, but it will slow them down and force them to adapt, which will give us more time to prepare for the main engagement. Chen nodded and opened a channel to all ships in the system. Attention all vessels, this is Admiral Chen. You have just participated in the first victory of the Galactic Alliance. The enemy scouts have been destroyed, and their intelligence has been corrupted with our own special welcome gifts. Cheers. Echoed across the communication channels as crew members from a dozen different species celebrated together. But Chen was not finished. However, she continued, this was just the beginning. The real test comes when the main swarm arrives. They will be expecting easy prey based on the false information we just sent them. Instead, they will find something that no Devourer force has ever encountered, a galaxy full of species that have learned to fight as one. She paused, looking around the bridge at the faces of her crew, human and alien all working together toward a common goal. The Devourers have been consuming galaxies for millions of years. They think they know everything about warfare, everything about resistance, everything about what different species can accomplish. They are about to learn that they are wrong. For 400 years, humanity has been preparing for this fight. We turned ourselves into legends through sacrifice and determination. But today we discovered something even more powerful than human legend. Today we discovered what happens when legends learn to work together. 3 months later, when the main Devourer swarm finally arrived at the edge of the galaxy, they found something unprecedented waiting for them. Not just human defenses, but a coordinated resistance by 13 species that had learned to fight as a single organism. The battle that followed lasted for weeks and reshaped dozens of star systems. When it was over, the Devourer swarm was gone, scattered into component atoms by weapons that thought like Vexani, flowed like ethereals, fought like Thakuri, and coordinated like humans. In the quiet aftermath, as the Alliance fleet regrouped and began the long process of rebuilding, Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of the Defiance and watched children from 13 different worlds playing together in the hydroponics gardens. They were the first generation to grow up knowing that when monsters came from the dark between galaxies, heroes would be waiting for them. Heroes who had learned that the greatest strength was not in standing alone, but in standing together. The humans had been legends, stories of impossible warriors who could destroy moons and cross galaxies. Now they all were legends, and the universe would never be the same.
The sky burned orange as another Dominion warship entered Earth's atmosphere. Captain Jack Mason watched from the cracked window of what had once been Earth's Space Defense Command. His hands gripped the metal railing until his knuckles turned white. "They're landing at the old airport now," Lisa Reed said, joining him at the window. Her face was smudged with dirt, and a thin scar ran from her right eye to her jaw, a gift from their failed last stand 3 months ago. "That makes 5 ships today." Jack nodded. "They're here for the last of our fleet." Outside, the sleek purple ships of the Dominion hovered over Earth's cities like giant predators. They didn't look like they had been built. They looked like they had been born. Not a single weld line or rivet showed on their perfect hulls. "It's time," Jack said, straightening his torn uniform. "Let's go hear what our new masters have to say." The meeting place was once a grand United Nations building. Now half of it was missing, blown away during the invasion. The remaining half had been quickly repaired with Dominion technology that made the human construction look like a child's attempt with building blocks. Lord Vex stood at the center of the room. Like all Dominion leaders, he was tall and thin with skin that shifted colors slightly as he moved. Right now, it glowed a confident gold. Jack and the other military commanders from around the world filed in and stood in a half circle before Vex. None of them had slept in days. Some still wore bandages. "Earth representatives," Vex said, his voice clear but emotionless. "The war is over. Your planet is now part of the Dominion. Your courage was notable, if ineffective." A murmur of anger passed through the human group, but no one spoke up. What was there to say? Earth's military had thrown everything they had at the Dominion. Their best ships, weapons, and soldiers had barely scratched the alien fleet. "The terms are simple," Vex continued. "Humans will provide resources and basic labor. You will not develop new technology. You will not leave your solar system. You will not resist." Jack stepped forward. "And if we refuse?" Vex's skin rippled blue for a moment, the equivalent of a laugh. "Then instead of becoming useful members of the Dominion, you become extinct. The choice is yours, Captain Mason." Jack felt the eyes of the other commanders on him. As the former leader of Earth's Space Defense Force, many looked to him now. 6 billion lives hung on his next words. "We accept your terms," he said, the words like ash in his mouth. "Wise," said Vex. "My ships will collect all military technology from your bases worldwide. Anything that functions will be taken. Anything broken beyond repair, you may keep." His skin flickered with blue again. "We are not unreasonable. You can have the junk." 3 days later, Jack stood in the rain watching as Dominion ships hauled away the last of Earth's functioning warships. Next to the landing pads were enormous piles of damaged equipment that the aliens had deemed worthless. Broken engine cores, cracked weapon housings, ships with their hulls torn open. "They're efficient," Lisa said, joining him under his umbrella. As Earth's leading engineer on the now-destroyed orbital defense platform, she had worked with Jack for years. "They're taking anything that works and leaving anything that would take effort to repair." "They think we're stupid," Jack said quietly. "They think we're primitives who got lucky with a few technologies." Lisa looked at the mountain of discarded technology. "Well, compared to them, maybe we are." "No," Jack said firmly. "Different, not stupid. They build everything to be perfect. Every piece of their technology is elegant, efficient, but that's not the only way to solve a problem." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "What are you saying?" Before Jack could answer, Lord Vex approached them, flanked by 2 guards. Unlike the guards' shifting blue skin, Vex remained a steady gold. Captain Mason, Engineer Reed. Vex gestured to the piles of scrap. Your soldiers ask if they can take some of this broken equipment. For what purpose, I wonder? Souvenirs, Jack said quickly. Reminders of our defeat. Ah, Vex said, his golden skin rippling slightly. How sentimental. Yes, take it all if you wish. Your primitive minds couldn't possibly do anything useful with it. As Vex walked away, Lisa turned to Jack with fire in her eyes. I want to prove him wrong so badly. Jack watched the Dominion ships rising into the evening sky. We will, he said quietly, round up every engineer, programmer, and scientist who survived. Tell them to meet us at the old mining complex in the Rocky Mountains. Why there? Because it's deep, it's isolated, and the Dominion thinks it's just a simple mine now. Jack's eyes never left the departing ships. They expect us to mine resources for them. We'll do that on the surface. But underground, we're going to do something else. What exactly? Jack finally looked at her, a dangerous smile forming on his face. We're going to take their junk and build nightmares. The abandoned mining complex was cavernous. Its largest chamber could have held 3 football fields. Now it held something else, piles of broken Dominion technology, hauled in secretly over 2 months. Before Jack stood 30 of Earth's greatest minds. Engineers, physicists, computer scientists. All had lost something to the Dominion. All had a reason to fight. They think we're beaten, Jack said, his voice echoing in the vast space. They think we're primitive. But humans have one advantage they don't understand. We know how to make do with what we have. We know how to improvise. He pointed to the alien technology piled around them. They gave us their scraps because they couldn't imagine what we might do with them. Their technology is perfect, designed to work exactly one way. But we're going to make it work our way. Lisa stepped forward. I've been studying their engine cores. They're designed to work in harmony, in perfect balance. But what if we deliberately unbalance them? Create controlled chaos. Mark Davis, a programmer who had lost his wife in the invasion, nodded eagerly. Their computer systems reject anything that doesn't follow their logic patterns. But I think we can create hybrid systems, part human, part Dominion, that they wouldn't recognize or know how to counter. Exactly, Jack said. We're not going to build pretty ships. We're going to build monsters, nightmares, things that shouldn't work but do. He looked around at the determined faces. This will take years. We'll have to work in secret, maintain the pretense of defeat. And then, asked an older woman, Dr. Wilson, who had once designed Earth's defense satellites. Jack's face hardened. And then we take back our world, one ship at a time. A hush fell over the group as they considered the enormity of what he proposed. Then Lisa stepped forward. I'm in, she said simply. One by one, the others joined her. Soon all 30 stood in a circle, hands joined. They gave us junk, Jack said. We'll build nightmares, they answered as one. Outside, a Dominion patrol ship passed overhead, its scanners sweeping the mountains. It detected nothing but a simple mining operation and moved on, never imagining what was beginning deep below. 5 years passed. On the surface, Earth seemed to have accepted its place in the Dominion. Humans mined their planet's resources, handed them over to their alien masters, and kept their heads down. The Dominion inspection ships came less often now. Earth was considered a solved problem. Deep underground, beneath 3 different mountain ranges across the planet, a different story was unfolding. Mark Davis hadn't seen daylight in 3 days. His eyes burned from staring at screens where lines of code, part human, part alien, scrolled endlessly. The room around him was lit by the blue glow of salvaged Dominion power cells. 20 other programmers worked nearby, all focused on the same impossible task. Any progress? Lisa Reed asked, entering the room. Her hair was streaked with gray now, though she was only 36. Stress had aged them all. Mark rubbed his eyes. I think so. Look at this. He tapped a command, And on a large central screen, a simulation began running. A virtual ship, nothing like the sleek Dominion vessels, but a rough, asymmetrical thing, performed a series of maneuvers that should have been impossible. "How are you getting that much speed?" Lisa asked, leaning closer. "I'm not using their navigation systems the way they were designed," Mark explained. "The Dominion builds everything to be balanced. Perfect. But I found that if you deliberately create imbalance in their drive systems, you get these energy spikes." He pointed to a graph showing wild fluctuations. "They consider this a catastrophic failure. I'm treating it as a feature." Lisa smiled. "Jack needs to see this. He's back from the mining inspection." In another part of the complex, Captain Jack Mason, still called Captain though Earth no longer had a military, was studying a large holographic display showing the solar system. Red dots indicated known Dominion patrol routes. "They've gotten lazy," he said as Lisa and Mark entered. "Their patrol patterns are predictable now. They don't expect trouble from us anymore." "They'll get trouble all right," Lisa said. "Mark's made a breakthrough with the navigation systems." "Show him." Mark ran the simulation again. Jack watched with increasing interest as the ugly, misshapen virtual ship performed maneuvers no Dominion vessel could match. "It's like watching a drunk dancer," Jack said. "Unpredictable, but somehow effective. Their targeting systems would struggle to lock onto movement patterns like that." "Exactly," Mark said. "And there's more. We found a way to integrate their power cores with our old nuclear technology. It's unstable, dangerous even, but twice as powerful," Lisa finished. "They gave us broken parts expecting junk. We're building monsters instead." Jack nodded slowly. "How close are we to a working prototype?" 6 months, Lisa said. "Maybe less." "Good," Jack said, turning back to the holographic display. "Because we found something." He zoomed in on an area near Jupiter. "Our observers at the outer mining stations caught a Dominion supply ship dropping off equipment at this location. It's not on any of their official routes." "What are they building out there?" Mark asked. "We don't know," Jack replied. "But whatever it is, they're keeping it secret even from their own people, which means we need to find out." The next morning, Jack led Lisa and Mark through a massive underground hangar where hundreds of people worked on what appeared to be piles of junk. But looking closer, one could see patterns emerging from the chaos. In the center of the hangar sat their first prototype, the Nightmare One. It looked nothing like a proper spaceship. Parts of its hull were exposed, showing a maze of wiring and tubes. Different sections were different colors, salvaged from various sources. Where Dominion ships were elegant and symmetrical, this was a hodgepodge of angles and protrusions. "It's ugly," said a voice behind them. They turned to see Tom Fletcher, a former civilian pilot who had lost his family during the invasion. "But I'm guessing that's the point." "Beauty isn't the goal," Jack confirmed. "This ship needs to do things the Dominion can't predict or understand." Tom walked around the vessel, examining it with an expert's eye. "The engines are massive compared to the hull size." "Overcharge," Lisa explained. "We're running their power cores hot, way beyond safety parameters. A Dominion engineer would have a heart attack seeing this design. And that's our advantage," Jack added. "They'd follow rules. We're breaking them." Tom nodded. "When do we fly?" "We need a pilot crazy enough to test it," Jack said with a slight smile. Tom's eyes lit up. "I volunteer." 3 months later, in the dead of night, the mountain above the secret base split open, a hidden door large enough for a ship to pass through. The Nightmare One rose slowly from its underground home, its engines glowing an angry red instead of the cool blue of Dominion technology. Inside the cramped cockpit, Tom Fletcher gripped controls that were part salvaged Dominion interface, part human design. The ship hummed around him, vibrating in a way that felt dangerous, alive. "This is Nightmare One," he said into his headset. "Ready for test flight." From the control room, Jack's voice responded. "Remember, stay within the atmosphere. Keep below their orbital sensors. All we need to know is if this thing flies without exploding." "Copy that," Tom said, then added, "But if it does explode, I can't think of a better way to go." He pushed the engines to quarter power. The ship shot forward with such acceleration that Tom was slammed back into his seat. Warnings flashed across his screen. Heat levels rising, power fluctuations, structural integrity compromised. The Dominion would have shut the engines down immediately. Tom grinned and pushed them harder. The ugly ship tore through the night sky, performing maneuvers that defied conventional aerodynamics. It didn't bank gracefully like Dominion ships. It jerked, it stuttered, it sometimes seemed to skip through the air. But it flew, and it was fast. Faster than anything Earth had built before. Faster, perhaps, than the Dominion's own vessels. When Tom finally landed back at the base 2 hours later, the entire team was waiting. As he climbed out, sweating and laughing, they swarmed around him. "It's insane," he told them. "It doesn't fly like anything I've ever piloted. It's like riding a bull during an earthquake. But it works." Jack turned to Lisa and Mark, his eyes gleaming with a hope that had been absent for 5 years. "Begin full production. We need 50 more like this within 6 months." 50? Lisa asked. "We barely have enough salvaged parts for 10. "Then we'll need more parts," Jack said grimly. "It's time to start hitting their supply ships. Small raids, nothing that would trigger a full response." He looked around at the determined faces of his team. "For 5 years, we've been building in secret. Now we begin phase 2, testing our nightmares against the real thing." Mark nodded. "They won't know what hit them." "No," Jack agreed, "because we're not fighting by their rules anymore." Outside, the sun was rising over a world that appeared defeated. But underground, humanity's darkest, most brilliant creation was taking shape. A fleet of ships that shouldn't work, shouldn't fly, shouldn't fight. A fleet of nightmares. 10 years after the invasion, the Dominion patrol ship Bright Sentinel moved through Jupiter's orbit on its regular route. Inside, Commander Relk's skin shifted to a bored gray as he logged another uneventful patrol. "Scan the moons again," he ordered his crew. "Then we can return to base." The sensor officer began the scan, then paused. "Commander, there's an odd reading from the storm system. Might be a sensor malfunction." Relk sighed. "Run diagnostics. These ships are too old for this outer patrol duty." The sensor officer never got to run the diagnostics. From within Jupiter's swirling storms, 12 ships emerged, if you could call them ships. They looked like no vessels the Dominion had ever built. Jagged, asymmetrical, with parts clearly salvaged from different sources, they resembled floating junk heaps more than warships. Relk's skin flashed alarm red. "Impossible," he whispered. The human ships, for they could only be human, moved in patterns that defied prediction. They didn't form neat attack formations like Dominion vessels would. Instead, they swarmed like angry insects, each following its own chaotic path. "Open communications," Relk ordered. "Unknown vessels, this is." The human ships opened fire, but instead of the clean energy beams of Dominion weapons, these fired strange hybrid projectiles. Physical shells surrounded by energy fields that overwhelmed the Dominion shields through sheer brute force, rather than elegant penetration. The Bright Sentinel never sent a distress call. On the bridge of Nightmare Actual, Jack Mason watched the Dominion patrol ship explode on his viewscreen. "First blood," he said quietly. Lisa stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the readings from their ships. All Nightmare vessels report systems functioning within acceptable parameters. She allowed herself a small smile. "Well, acceptable to us anyway. A Dominion engineer would be having a fit." "Any sign of other patrols?" Jack asked. Tom Fletcher, now fleet commander of the fighter-class Nightmare vessels, checked his scanners. Nothing in range. They weren't expecting trouble here. Not after 10 years. Jack nodded. "Begin salvage operations. I want everything we can use from that wreckage." Then back to hiding positions. As the Nightmare fleet moved to collect valuable parts from the destroyed Dominion ship, Jack stared out at Jupiter's swirling storms. The gas giant had proven to be the perfect hiding place. Its massive storms interfered with Dominion sensors, and its radiation would have damaged their sensitive instruments if they ventured too close. But the Nightmare ships, with their crude shielding and redundant systems, could handle it. "Do you think they'll figure it out?" Lisa asked quietly. "Not immediately," Jack replied. "One missing patrol ship isn't enough to raise a major alarm. They'll send investigators, assume it was a navigation error or equipment failure. And then," Jack's face hardened, "then we take more of them, one by one, building our strength until we're ready for something bigger." In the Dominion Command Center on Earth, Lord Vex studied the report of the missing patrol with mild concern. His skin rippled with brief flashes of yellow, the color of analytical thought. "No distress call?" he asked the officer before him. "None, my lord. The ship simply failed to return or report." Vex dismissed the idea of human involvement immediately. In 10 years, the primitives had shown no sign of rebellion. They worked in their mines, provided resources as demanded, and kept to themselves. Their military capability had been thoroughly dismantled. "Send a search vessel to its last known coordinates," Vex ordered. Most likely a navigation error took them too close to the gas giant. "These outer system patrols are monotonous. Crew error increases." "Yes, my lord." After the officer left, Vex turned to look out at the Earth skyline. The humans had proven to be disappointingly docile. He had almost hoped for more resistance. It would have made subjugating them more satisfying. When 3 more Dominion patrols disappeared near Jupiter over the next month, Vex could no longer dismiss it as coincidence. He ordered a battle group, 5 warships, to investigate. The battle group entered Jupiter's orbit with weapons charged and shields at maximum. They expected pirates, perhaps, or some natural phenomenon. What they found were monsters waiting in the storm. This time, the Nightmare fleet didn't bother hiding. 15 vessels, ranging from fighter size to one massive capital ship, emerged from Jupiter's clouds. Each was uglier than the last, asymmetrical horrors built from salvaged parts, their hulls bearing scorch marks and hasty repairs. On the bridge of the lead Dominion warship, Captain Marne's skin paled to white shock. "Those are human designs." His second-in-command zoomed in on the images, "mixed with our technology." But how? They couldn't possibly understand. "Open fire," Marne ordered. "All ships, full attack pattern." The Dominion vessels moved with perfect coordination, forming a flawless attack formation. Their weapons charged with the same beautiful synchronization that made Dominion technology so superior. The human fleet did the opposite. Each ship moved independently, following no discernible pattern, where Dominion ships aimed for clean kills, targeting engines or command centers. The human vessels tore into their enemies with savage, unpredictable attacks. From the bridge of the newly completed Nightmare Actual, Jack watched the battle unfold. "They still don't understand," he said to Lisa. "They're fighting by the book." "We burned the book," she replied, gripping the console as their ship shuddered under enemy fire. The massive Nightmare flagship shouldn't have been able to move as it did, rolling to present its strongest shields, then suddenly jerking in the opposite direction when the Dominion adjusted their aim. Its engines glowed an angry red, occasionally belching flames when pushed beyond safe limits. "All ships, execute Plan Chaos," Jack ordered over the fleet channel. The Nightmare vessels broke their loose formation entirely, each acting as if operated by a madman. They took hits, many hits, but their crude, overlapping shield systems and heavily armored hulls absorbed damage that would have destroyed more elegant ships. And they hit back harder. Where Dominion weapons were precise, the Nightmare fleet's cobbled together weapons were brutal. They didn't elegantly disable, they tore apart. 3 Dominion warships were destroyed in the first 10 minutes. A 4th soon followed. The 5th, badly damaged, managed to enter faster than light travel, escaping back toward Earth. Should we pursue? Tom asked from his fighter command. No, Jack said. Let them go. Let them tell the others what they saw. As the human crews cheered their victory, Jack turned to Lisa. Get me damage reports. We need repairs before they come back. His eyes were hard. And they will come back. With everything they have. Lisa nodded. Next time, they won't underestimate us. No, Jack agreed. Next time they'll be scared. He looked out at the floating wreckage of 4 Dominion warships, the most advanced vessels in the galaxy, defeated by ships made from their own garbage. 10 years they've looked down on us, he said quietly. Now they'll learn what humans do best. We adapt, we improvise, and we overcome. The Nightmare fleet gathered its prizes and withdrew back into Jupiter's storms, taking with them the broken remains of Dominion superiority. Lord Vex's skin had never shown such a deep crimson. The color of rage pulsed across his body as he replayed the battle footage for the 5th time. 4 Dominion warships, perfect examples of the most advanced technology in the galaxy, destroyed by vessels that looked like they had been assembled from a scrapyard. It was impossible. It was insulting. How? He demanded of the gathered Dominion commanders. How have these primitives done this? No one dared answer until Admiral Chorus stepped forward, his skin a cautious blue. My lord, it appears they have taken our discarded technology and modified it in ways we would never consider. Modified. Vex spat the word. They've corrupted it. Look at those ships, asymmetrical, unbalanced, chaotic. They shouldn't even fly. And yet they do, Chorus said quietly. The surviving captain reports that their movements were impossible to predict. Our targeting systems are designed to anticipate logical, efficient maneuvers. The human vessels moved, irrationally. Vex's skin paled slightly as understanding dawned. They've turned our greatest strength into a weakness. Our technology is perfect because it follows rules. They're breaking all the rules. He turned to stare out at Earth through the command center window. For 10 years, he had thought the humans beaten, docile. All the while, they had been building nightmares. Prepare the main battle fleet, he ordered. All of it. We will crush this rebellion before it spreads. Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, the Nightmare fleet was growing. What had begun as a dozen ships was now nearly 100, each uglier and more dangerous than the last. Inside a hollowed-out asteroid that served as their main construction facility, Jack Mason met with his commanders. The room was lit by the blue-green glow of salvaged Dominion power cells. Maps and tactical displays covered the walls. The Dominion is mobilizing their main battle fleet, Jack told the gathered leaders. Over 50 warships, including 3 command vessels. Tom Fletcher whistled. That's overkill. That's respect, Lisa corrected. They're not taking any chances after what happened at Jupiter. Jack nodded. The question is, are we ready to face a force that size? Mark Davis, now Chief of Weapons Development, stepped forward. We've completed the first Dreadnought-class vessel, the Nightmare Prime. It's something even we think is crazy. Jack raised an eyebrow. How crazy? We've installed 12 Dominion power cores, modified to run beyond safe parameters. The energy output is off the charts. Honestly, it shouldn't work at all. But it does, Lisa added, though there's a good chance it might explode if pushed too hard. So it's a ship that might kill its own crew, Jack said thoughtfully. Perfect. The Dominion would never imagine we'd use something so dangerous. Tom laughed without humor. They already think we're insane. Might as well prove them right. Jack turned to the tactical display. The Dominion fleet will be here in 3 days. We don't have the numbers to face them head-on, even with the Dreadnought. Then we don't fight fair, said a new voice. Anna White, former guerrilla fighter before the invasion, now captain of a mid-sized Nightmare vessel, stepped into the light. We've hidden bases throughout the asteroid belt. We use them, hit and run, divide their forces, make them chase shadows. Jack nodded slowly. Guerrilla tactics, space warfare style. It could work. It has to work, Lisa said quietly. Because after this, there's no going back. The Dominion battle fleet entered the asteroid belt with weapons charged and shields at maximum. 53 warships in perfect formation, a display of overwhelming force that had subjugated countless worlds. On the bridge of the command ship, Lord Vex watched the scanner readings with intense focus, his skin rippling between angry red and cautious yellow. "Spread the fleet into search pattern," he ordered. "Find their bases." The perfect formation broke into smaller, equally perfect groups. They moved with mathematical precision through the asteroid field, their sensors probing every rock large enough to hide a ship. They found nothing for 2 days. Then a small Dominion patrol of 3 ships reported contact near a large asteroid cluster. By the time reinforcements arrived, all 3 ships had been destroyed, and there was no sign of the attackers. Similar reports came in from across the asteroid belt. Small groups of nightmare vessels would appear, strike hard and fast, then vanish among the asteroids before larger forces could respond. Vex's skin pulsed with frustrated crimson. "They're toying with us. Concentrate the fleet. Force them to commit to a real battle." As the Dominion ships regrouped, sensors detected a massive energy signature hidden behind Mars. "There," Vex said, his skin lightening with satisfaction. "Their main force." The Dominion fleet changed course, moving with elegant efficiency toward Mars. As they rounded the planet, they found what they were looking for: a group of 30 nightmare vessels, including one massive ship that dwarfed the others. "Surround them," Vex ordered. "No escape this time." The Dominion ships moved to encircle the human fleet. Their formation was flawless, leaving no gaps. On the bridge of the Nightmare Prime, Jack Mason watched the track close. "All ships, hold position," he ordered. "Wait for my signal." Tom Fletcher's voice came over the comm from his fighter squadron. "They outnumber us almost 2 to 1, Captain." "Numbers aren't everything," Jack replied. "Lisa, is the primary weapon ready?" At the engineering station, Lisa's fingers flew over controls that were part Dominion, part human. "Ready, but unstable. We'll get 1 shot before the cores need to cool." "1 shot is all we need," Jack said. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All vessels, prepare for Plan Nightmare. On my mark." The Dominion fleet finished their encirclement. From his command ship, Lord Vex allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. His skin glowed golden with confidence. "Open fire," he ordered. At that exact moment, Jack gave his command. "Mark." The nightmare vessels scattered in all directions, but not randomly. They moved in a carefully choreographed chaos, creating gaps in very specific places. Before the Dominion gunners could adjust their aim, the massive Nightmare Prime fired its main weapon. No one, not even its creators, were prepared for what happened. The 12 overcharged Dominion cores released their energy not in a clean beam, but in a chaotic wave that tore through space itself. Where it touched Dominion ships, their perfect hulls simply came apart, their elegant systems overloaded by raw, uncontrolled power. 15 Dominion warships were destroyed in that single shot. The Nightmare Prime shuddered violently, its systems overheating. Warning lights flashed across its bridge as Lisa fought to prevent a core meltdown. "All ships, attack pattern Sigma," Jack ordered, gripping his chair as the flagship shook around him. "Hit them while they're shocked." The remaining nightmare vessels swarmed the Dominion fleet. What they lacked in numbers, they made up for in sheer unpredictability. Where Dominion captains hesitated, following protocols and waiting for orders, the human commanders improvised, taking whatever openings they found. From his command ship, Vex watched in horror as his perfect fleet was torn apart by vessels that shouldn't even function. His golden skin had faded to a sickly white. "Retreat," he ordered, his voice barely audible. Then louder, "All ships, retreat immediately." The surviving Dominion vessels broke formation, abandoning their elegant battle plans as they fled toward Earth. Behind them, the Nightmare fleet regrouped around their damaged flagship. Jack looked at the tactical display, showing the retreating enemy ships. Pursue. The Prime's cores need time to stabilize, Lisa reported. We push them now. We might lose the ship. Jack nodded. Let them run. They know what we can do now. He turned to his communications officer. Send a message to Earth, to all humans. Tell them it's time to stand up. As the Nightmare fleet moved to safer positions to make repairs, the message spread across human settlements throughout the solar system. The Nightmares were coming home. Earth's night sky lit up as ships descended through the atmosphere. Not the elegant purple vessels of the Dominion, but the rough, misshapen shadows of the Nightmare fleet. Across the planet, humans poured into streets, looking upward with hope for the first time in a decade. In the Dominion Command Center, Lord Vex stood surrounded by his remaining officers. Through the windows, they could see the approaching human fleet. His skin had settled into a pale blue, the color of defeat. How many ships? He asked quietly. Over 200, an officer replied. They've been building them in hidden facilities throughout the solar system. We never knew. Vex closed his eyes briefly, half his battle fleet destroyed. The remaining ships damaged and demoralized. The Dominion's hold on Earth was slipping away. Open a channel to their leader, he ordered. Aboard the Nightmare Actual, Jack Mason sat in the command chair as they approached Earth. The main fleet had been joined by smaller vessels hidden on Earth itself. Mining ships converted to warships, their ugly modifications concealed until now. Incoming transmission from the Dominion Command Center. The communications officer reported. On screen, Jack ordered. Lord Vex's image appeared, his blue skin rippling slightly. Captain Mason, it seems we underestimated your species. A common mistake, Jack replied coldly. One you won't have the opportunity to repeat. I wish to discuss terms, Vex said, his voice steady despite his defeat. There is no need for further bloodshed. Jack leaned forward. My fleet is in position above every major Dominion installation on Earth. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation. Any ship still on the ground after that will be destroyed. And if we refuse? Jack's face showed no emotion. Then we'll show you what nightmares can really do. He cut the transmission. Lisa, standing beside his chair, raised an eyebrow. You're giving them a chance to leave. Destroying them all would be satisfying, Jack admitted, but unnecessary. We've made our point, and we need some of them alive to spread the word about what happened here. Tom's voice came over the comm from his fighter squadron. Dominion ships are powering up at all locations. Looks like they're preparing to evacuate. Keep weapons locked on them, Jack ordered. Trust, but verify. 3 days later, the last Dominion ship left Earth's atmosphere. In cities around the world, humans celebrated their freedom, cheering as nightmare vessels patrolled the skies that had once belonged to their oppressors. But Jack knew it wasn't over. They'll be back, he told his commanders as they gathered in what had once been the Dominion's command center. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but they'll be back. The Dominion controls hundreds of worlds. They can't let this rebellion stand. We'll be ready, Tom said confidently. No, Jack shook his head. We need to end this permanently. We need to take the fight to them. Lisa frowned. Our ships don't have the range to reach Dominion territory. Not yet, Jack agreed. But we have their technology now. They're intact ships. We can learn, adapt, improve. Mark Davis, who had been studying captured Dominion databases, looked up from his screen. There may be another way. According to this, the Dominion is holding a High Council meeting in 3 weeks. All major leaders will be there, including those from other conquered worlds. Jack's eyes narrowed. Where? A space station at the edge of our solar system. They built it in secret as a forward command post for this sector. Jack smiled slowly. Perfect. We hit them there. We can end this with one strike. Lisa looked concerned. Even with our fleet, Attacking their leaders would be risky. Which is why we won't attack, Jack said. We'll negotiate. The Dominion space station, eternal harmony, hung against the blackness of space, its perfect spiral shape reflecting the elegance of its designers. Inside, representatives from the Dominion High Council gathered to discuss the Earth problem. Lord Vex stood before them, his skin a shifting mixture of blue shame and yellow analysis, as he explained the unprecedented defeat. The humans have created technology that defies our understanding, he concluded. Their nightmare fleet doesn't follow any recognizable design principles. First Counselor Moran, the highest authority present, leaned forward. Her silver skin rippled with concern. You're suggesting these primitives have surpassed our technology? Not surpassed, Vex clarified. Perverted. They've taken our elegant designs and transformed them into chaotic, unpredictable weapons. Before Moran could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. On the main view screen, ships appeared, dozens of them, surrounding the station, but not attacking. Impossible, someone whispered. They couldn't have found this place. In the center of the Nightmare fleet was the massive Nightmare Prime, now fully repaired and bristling with weapons that glowed an angry red. Even from a distance, it looked wrong. A vessel that by all laws of physics and engineering shouldn't exist. They're hailing us, a technician reported. Moran nodded. On screen, Jack Mason's face appeared, calm and determined. This is Captain Mason of Earth. I'm here to discuss terms. Moran's skin flashed with brief anger. You dare to make demands of the Dominion. I'm not making demands, Jack replied. I'm offering a choice. We have your station surrounded. Our flagship alone could reduce it to dust. But I'd rather talk. Several minutes later, the Dominion Council watched in disbelief as a human shuttle docked with their station. When Jack Mason walked into their council chamber, flanked by Lisa and Tom, there was an audible murmur of shock. Jack looked around at the alien faces, then focused on First Counselor Moran. Thank you for agreeing to meet. What do you want, human? Moran asked coldly. Earth's complete independence, Jack said without hesitation. And a seat on the Dominion Council. The chamber erupted in outrage. Voices shouted that this was impossible, unthinkable, that no conquered world had ever been granted such status. Moran raised a hand for silence. And if we refuse, then the Nightmare fleet will take the war to your core worlds, Jack said simply, one by one. Lord Vex stepped forward. You couldn't possibly reach our homeworlds. The distance. We've already adapted your FTL drives, Lisa interrupted. Crude versions, but they work. And we're getting better every day. You called us primitive, Jack continued. But primitive doesn't mean stupid. You gave us junk because you couldn't imagine what we'd do with it. Your mistake was thinking inside your perfect, elegant box. We built outside it. We built nightmares. Moran studied him for a long moment. And if we agree to your terms, then we become allies, not enemies, Jack said. Earth gets its freedom, and the Dominion gets something it desperately needs. And what is that? Moran asked. Jack smiled slightly. Innovation. New ways of thinking. Because sooner or later, you'll meet someone out there who isn't impressed by your perfect technology. When that happens, you'll need nightmares on your side. 3 months later, Jack stood on the observation deck of the New Earth Defense Headquarters, watching ships move through the sky above. Some were the familiar ugly shapes of the Nightmare fleet. Others were the elegant purple of Dominion vessels, now allies, not conquerors. Lisa joined him, handing him a data tablet. The treaty has been ratified by all parties. Earth is officially an independent member of the Dominion Council. Not bad for a bunch of primitives with junk, Jack said with a small smile. The Dominion engineers are still trying to understand how our ships work, Lisa said. They keep saying our designs violate fundamental principles. That's our greatest strength, Jack replied. We don't care about principles. We care about results. Tom entered, grinning widely. You won't believe this. 3 other worlds have requested our help in designing their defense fleets. They want nightmares of their own. Jack laughed. And so it begins. From conquer to consultants in less than a year. He looked out at the stars, thinking of all the worlds beyond, some dominion, some not yet discovered. Earth was no longer alone or helpless. Not bad, he repeated softly, for a planet full of primitives with junk. Lisa smiled beside him. Next time someone dumps their trash on us, they'd better hope we like them, Jack finished, because we know how to build monsters from garbage now. The Nightmare Fleet continued its patrol, ugly and magnificent against the blue Earth sky, a reminder to the galaxy that sometimes the most dangerous weapons are the ones you throw away.